Hi, in this video I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about feedback buttons. A feedback button is a discrete button that's visible on your website, your web app, or your online course. It kind of floats on top of your website, usually on the right hand side. When your user clicks on the feedback button, a feedback form appears. Usually the feedback form is rather simple with no more than a few questions. When the user clicks Send Feedback, the feedback sent to you, the feedback form disappears, allowing the user to continue with whatever they were doing. So why use a feedback button? The number one reason is this. A feedback button allows your customers to give you instant on-page feedback as soon as they encounter a problem or have an idea. But there are other benefits too. First, just the presence of a feedback button shows your customers that you welcome feedback and are serious about listening to what they have to say. Second, a feedback button makes it easy for users to give you instant feedback rather than requiring them to leave the page they are on to hunt for your contact details. Third, a feedback button provides a visible but discrete feedback channel that doesn't get in the way of users performing other actions. Fourth, a feedback button delivers feedback into a private channel under your control, rather than forcing users to go onto social media to publicly discuss problems. Fifth, a feedback button helps you understand customer preferences and pain points that might be preventing your business from growing. Sixth, a feedback button can identify usability issues, content mistakes, and bugs that are affecting your conversion rate. And seventh, and this is an important one, a feedback button saves your customer support team from headaches. And that's because the feedback report includes not just the feedback message itself, but also helpful info such as the URL, the device, browser and operating system, and some other important information like this. Where can you use a feedback button? You can use the feedback button on websites, web apps, web portals, beta websites, and on both the dashboard and individual pages of online courses. How can you use a feedback button? You can use a feedback button on all pages of your website, course, or web app. This ensures users can always give you feedback no matter where they are. However, this is quite a generic approach. If you have a feedback button everywhere, that feedback button and the form need to be very general and requires something like this. It's better to use feedback buttons judiciously. In my opinion, you should prefer to have buttons on pages where customers are trying to achieve well-defined goals and are likely to encounter problems or confusion. This includes a checkout process or completing a form requesting information. In this example, Confused.com wants users to successfully get a quote on car insurance. The feedback button is on this page because if the user runs into a problem, Confused.com wants to know about it. We've noticed over the years that a feedback button on your homepage is seldom used. On the other hand, a feedback button on a page with a form or a process to complete receives far more use. So how are feedback button tools different? Most feedback buttons do share similar basic functionality. Where they differ is the overall experience they offer you for customizing their appearance and for processing the feedback you receive. Here are some differences to look out for. Screenshots. Some feedback buttons allow your users to take screenshots. Adding a screenshot to the feedback message eliminates confusion, making it quicker for users to give feedback, and making it easier for your team to understand exactly what the feedback is trying to communicate. As the saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Meta information. Some feedback buttons automatically capture information that is helpful to your team in diagnosing and fixing problems. This so-called meta information includes information about the user's device, information about the users themselves, such as IP address and location, what browser plugins they might be using, the URL of the page they were on when they reported the problem, when the feedback was submitted, the user's email address and perhaps account ID, and even JavaScript events that occurred before the feedback was submitted. Platform. Some feedback button tools work everywhere, and some are designed just for specific environments. For example, many feedback buttons only work on WordPress websites. Some are intended for use in email or native apps, and some work only in web-based environments. Our own feedback button, Sabre Feedback, works in web apps, websites, and online courses. It also has a WordPress plugin, but it can't be used inside emails or in a native mobile app or desktop app. How you process feedback. Now, this is where feedback buttons do differ substantially. Look out for these options. A feedback button that sends feedback straight to a dashboard with some kind of search function, export option, and analytics. A feedback button that sends feedback straight to an email account of your choice, or perhaps multiple email addresses. A feedback button that connects with the tools you are already using, such as Jira, Trello, Zendesk, or Slack, and sends feedback straight to these. Some feedback buttons, such as Sabre Feedback, support all of these options. Others support only one or maybe two. So how can you install a feedback button? Typically, feedback buttons are easy to install but do require some technical expertise. Usually it involves pasting a snippet of code into your website's HTML, so you might need help from your web developer to do this. This is the usual installation process. First, you get a snippet of code from your feedback button's dashboard. Second, you paste that snippet into your website's HTML. And third, you might need to then deploy your updated website into production. This is usually all it takes to install a feedback button. Once you've completed these steps, you'll now see a feedback button on your website. So what about the feedback form that's triggered by the button? What feedback form works best for you? Feedback buttons that you create both general feedback forms and specific ones that ask for a certain type of feedback. For example, if you're tracking customer satisfaction ratings, you can use an NPS-style survey. Maybe you want to ask for feature requests and suggestions, so you can customize the form to take that into account. There's a lot of flexibility here. We've discovered that feedback forms work best when you customize them for the specific location in your website or app where they are being used. I have some tips on customizing your feedback form. First, use a specific feedback button and form on pages where users are completing a specific action. This gets better results than using the same feedback form on all the pages of your website, course, or app. Second, tweak the copy on your feedback button. For example, report a bug, feature suggestion, how are we doing? Any of these can be more effective than simply saying feedback. Third, change the position or style of your feedback button. At the bottom of the page might work better, or try replacing the button with a question mark icon in your top navigation. Okay, that's all I have to say about feedback buttons for now. Thanks for listening. Why not give Sabre Feedback a try as your feedback button? We have a free 10-day trial, it's easy to install and customize, and it connects to the tools you are already using such as Jira, Slack, and Trello. It has enough flexibility to be useful, but without all the extra complexity that adds to the workload of your team. Start your free 10-day trial now.